Excited about. You like the new car? Firstly, I just wanted to give a shout out to Sheikh Malas. Where is this man? He's over here. Let's just stand up. We could not be more opposites in many respects. Long beard, short beard, long kurta, sometimes short shorts. We're at totally opposite ends of the social media ecosystem. He is speaking to a Muslim audience. He's talking about Islamic topics. My audience are not Muslim. 99.9% of them are in the US. We're at opposite ends of the spectrum, but we are working together on the same fight. I see this brother. When I'm traveling to the Kufar's events, I see this dude. He doesn't look like this. The baseball hat on, he doesn't want to be seen. He's wearing a t-shirt. Sometimes he looks like a basketball player. I'm like, who is this dude? And he's there because he's worried like I am. Because when you look at those stages, we don't see any brothers and sisters from the Ummah there. And they are making gains. They're understanding the algorithm. Their cousins are running the algorithms. And he's there he's taking notes. I see him sneaking some pictures. And it's coming to life in events like this. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for everything you do. There is a viral video formula. It is guaranteed. And the reason I can tell you why there is because publications like OnePath, like Yaqeen, like so many influencers and creators from around the world, they can consistently go viral, right? They can do it day in, day out. That's the difference between the average person who might be able to put out one piece of content that transcends the algorithm and reaches millions of people, but a creator, a publication, an influencer, they can consistently go viral because they've identified that there is some secret source, there's some kind of an algorithm. But, who remembers this quote? Sorry, I know most of the quotes that you're going to see today are like hadith and sunnah and from the Quran. Most of my quotes are from Spider-Man 1. This was Uncle Ben, and he said, with great power comes great responsibility. Now this was kind of when Spider-Man was discovering his skills, right? He said, with great power comes great responsibility. And ultimately, I think it's exactly the same when you think about the viral video formula. Once you know how to get attention, once you know how to get views, once you know how to propagate and push stories out into the world, it is a massive responsibility what you do with that power, right? Allah has given you a microphone, and an audience, a platform, the ability, the skills to reach millions and millions of people around the world, generate billions of views. It's a huge responsibility what you do with that. And I'm speaking to you personally from someone who can admit that I have been on the wrong side of this equation. I have used the viral video formula in a previous life to promote and propagate ideas that were against our value system, that are against our tradition. So I give you the instructions today or some of the guidance with a real caveat or a real warning that we have to be careful who can give attention, who can bring attention, because you can use these things for the wrong purposes. You just hit you in your car. I mean, a car crash on stage. Oh, this is our first trip together, by the way, just father and son. We're on a boys' trip, alhamdulillah. Learning the viral video formula for me was a very, very unusual journey. And I think sometimes Allah will put you on a pathway through a series of jobs and tasks, and at the time you won't have any idea why you are doing the things that you are doing. But at the end of that journey, you'll look back and you'll be able to retroactively say, whoa, if all those different steps didn't happen, I would have never been able to get to the point that I'm at today. You know what I mean? There's a particular pathway that leads you to unlock particular things. And for me, I'll tell you very briefly what that pathway looked like. I graduated and I wanted to be a war journalist. I wanted to travel to conflict zones around the world and tell stories. And every news organization I got in touch with, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, they all said the same thing. You're too young, you don't have enough experience. And to be honest, right back in 2010, those jobs were almost exclusively old white men that were your Middle East expert, your Africa correspondent. So in 2010, I started hitchhiking, just catching rides for free from South Africa to Syria, from Durban to Damascus, 12,000 kilometers hitchhiking up the whole of Africa. And along that process, I became a one-man band storyteller. Remember, back in 2010, on an old Nokia, it was quite unusual to be filming video with a phone. Nowadays, everyone understands video with a phone, but in 2010, that wasn't a thing. I ended up in Egypt during the first Arab Spring. I ended up in Congo when an ammunition depot exploded. I ended up getting smuggled into Syria to cover the war in 2014. And alhamdulillah, I was able to materialize that goal of becoming that war correspondent. And I think my first lesson there for you is many of us are waiting for this dream content opportunity to be served to us. Where it's like, I want to be a travel vlogger, I want to be a food reviewer, I want to do geopolitics. And I'm just waiting for somebody to be like, here's the show, brother, here's your show and here's your team. What are you waiting for? If you have a mobile phone, you can start right now. If you've always had this itch to be a travel vlogger, do your first travel vlog in Istanbul this trip. Right? The best time to start is now, don't be precious. I then joined 24-hour television stations. I got a job at a South African media organization. It's in South Africa. And when I joined that news organization, almost the entire team of journalists were white in South Africa, where white people are only 20% of the population, but they made up the majority of the news organization. And at that stage in 2013, I started training black South Africans how to shoot content on iPhones and curating that footage onto television screens. And that was a really landmark moment. So it's like, whoa, you can actually train this skill set. You don't just have to be a storyteller, you can impart this knowledge and get other people to do the same. I then moved to India in 2014, and I joined the Hindustan Times. Big newspaper, 750 journalists. And then I had to start building tools and systems to get 750 journalists all to shoot video with their mobile phones. So this is where I started to understand scale and building tools and apps to help make this a much bigger thing. I then got a job at CNN International in London in 2016. I was running the Snapchat show. There were 200 staff in the London office of CNN. I was the only Muslim in 2016. In London! London's basically a Muslim country if you haven't been. And you try to understand why they have these kind of Zionist framings of the world. It's not a top-down narrative. They don't get a call every day saying, you must push the Zionist agenda. No, the journalists on the ground actually believe the stories that they preach. They have grown up in a post-9/11 world. They view you, they view us through the perspective of counter-terrorism and security. That's a much bigger problem, where the actual journalists on the ground believe the stories that they teach. At that stage, I pitched an idea. I said, guys, what if you just train citizens how to tell their own stories all over the world, train them, and have a team of journalists curating that content and publishing professional quality shows? And they laughed at the idea. They said, people with mobile phones telling stories, are you out of your mind? That's what journalists do. They believe that they were the sole arbiters of truth, right? Because they've had a monopoly on storytelling for such a long time. And at that stage, we had the choice. You can continue to try and fix these old media companies, but alhamdulillah, we decided to build a new one called CTV. And we basically traveled around the world, co-founder and I, to over 100 cities. We trained up 20,000 people, and we created a massive network of mobile journalists. And the beauty of user-generated content, people with mobile phones, is it's 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper. It's more raw, it's more real, it's more authentic. And that enabled us to get stories from Sudan to Somalia to Palestine. The thing is, every single person in this room and most of the population around the world today have the tools. They all have a 4K camera in their pocket, right? These guys like this guy, Hamza, they will tell you that this thing is infinitely better than my iPhone, but the average consumer cannot tell the difference. So we all have this Ferrari in our pockets, but we're driving it in first gear. We also all have editing apps. I can go into CapCut, I'll do a workshop later today, and I guarantee you, I can edit and subtitle and music and publish faster than any of the professionals in this room on a phone in seconds. So we all have, and everybody has that capacity. You can all do the same. We also all have basically free data. Data went from being expensive to being universal, right? You can upload infinite amounts of content. And we have free distribution. You have Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest. So we can reach billions of people around the world. All the tools are free. The cost of creating content has gone from thousands of dollars, sorry Hamza, to basically free. But most people do not know how tell stories. A very small plethora of humanity, the creators, the influencers, the 0.1% of the internet know how to consistently go viral. The 99% of us, especially in the Ummah, and Maraz, I love this, let's build an Ummah, just the following. The 99% of the Ummah, they are just net consumers. That's why we have no control over our narrative. That's why they're telling stories about us and we're not able to tell our own stories. We have all those tools, we have our phone, we have all these platforms, but we don't know how to tell stories. That's exactly what we try to do. We trained 20,000 people around the world. We built storytelling apps that guide people through the storytelling process, and we curated that into shows. TV shows, documentaries, social media shows. And alhamdulillah, we did really well. We generated 1 billion views a year. We've got 12 social media products. We've published 7,000 videos, and those videos have generated $14 million US in revenue. You have to find ways to make this whole thing sustainable. I said that whole introduction to basically say that this slide is to say that the next few slides, I know what I'm talking about. You consistently make videos that go viral. You consistently make videos that generate lots and lots of revenue online. And alhamdulillah, the company is also investing in my Snapchat. Why does this matter? Why do I need everyone to leave this room with this skill set? Why do I need all of you guys to go and train somebody else when you leave this room? Because we are facing the biggest existential threat to the Ummah, and that is that we are being shut down online. We are systematically have no control over any of the social media channels. We are building our houses on somebody else's land. We can grow the biggest following, and they can shadow ban us. They can censor us, especially if we talk about the things that matter. And yes, we can launch platforms like Upscroll and other social media platforms, and we should do that. We should own some of the infrastructure. But we should also be pushing ideas onto their side of the internet. And to do that, we need a decentralized network of thousands of value-reliant people from the Ummah that are all able to put out content on their platforms. They can shut down one path. They can shut down CTV. They can shut down Yusuf, Omar. They can't shut down all of us. We are the majority. We're over 2 billion people around the world. That's our biggest strength. All we gotta do as an Ummah is literally empower our Ummah to tell stories. We'll be unstoppable. So, let's get into the viral video formula. I'm gonna speak very fast from this point on, so feel free to record this because you're gonna be like, oh, what does he say? Sometimes when you give a speech, there's two things. One end of the spectrum, you don't give enough value. That's kind of lame. On the other end of the spectrum, you give too much in a short amount of time, and people are like, what did he say? I'm going to be on this end of the spectrum. And you give too much, and people are going to be confused, but you'll watch it back and it'll make sense later. Okay, so I'm going to start with the biggest mistake we made early on. If I could go back in time, what would I do differently? This is the YouTube Creator Playbook. Anyone familiar with this diagram? Nobody? Okay. This has 3 verticals of content. Hygiene, which is the stuff that people will search online. Top 5 halal restaurants in London. How to make salah. These kinds of things. Highly searchable content. The second is Hub. Hub is your everyday content. Hey guys, I'm at GMC today. I'm speaking to the community. Hey guys, I'm flying to Istanbul today. Your Insta stories, your regular updates, that kind of stuff, right? Stuff that you put out on a regular basis. And your hero content is the real wow factor, the memorable stuff, the big impact pieces that you do. Now, raise your hand if you have published an Instagram story in the stories format, ephemeral, disappearing in the next 24 hours, in the last week. Raise your hand if you published an Instagram story. Okay, so the majority of the group. Now, raise your hand if you published a reel. Okay, more like a quarter of the group. Now raise your hand if you published something longer than 3 minutes in the last week. Right now, like 2 or 3% of the group. So the mistake that I made for the majority of my career, for 16 years, I would say I got 13 of them wrong. Literally the majority of my career I got wrong, is I focused on these 2 basics. I focused on keeping my socials up to date on a daily basis. I focused on giving you that quick Instagram stories update, putting up a reel, even though it wasn't that good, just to keep populating the feed. But when I actually go back and look at the analytics of the pieces that took us from 0 to 9 million followers, it was actually the hero content. It was actually the stuff that people still, when they come to this conference, they said, oh brother, I remember that piece you did, oh my god, alhamdulillah. Like, it's a very select few, like I would say there's like 6 pieces over the last 16 years. 6 pieces over the last 16 years that really popped off the channel. And these weren't random, these are actually the ones that we really considered, thought about, got interesting access, got a unique perspective, was able to tap into something nobody else was talking about. Sometimes we spent a month or 3 months working on it. If I could go back in time, I would just do more of that. And I know that sounds obvious, but the point is, the daily stuff doesn't fundamentally change your platform. The day-to-day stuff doesn't bring in the next 100,000 users. The day-to-day stuff doesn't make your brand memorable. You basically want to build a platform, build a profile, do some prolific stuff, and then do regular publishing. And then you find out people. Because all of you put your hands up and said, okay, I'm doing Instagram stories on a regular basis, but that doesn't grow your audience. That's just an update for the people already watching you. Dedicate your resources and effort to the stuff that's really going to differentiate you. Now you're always like, duh, it's like do hero content, but like show me how. So let's talk about how. Okay, so the algorithm works complicated but also relatively simple. You publish a piece of content on all social media platforms, and they serve it to somewhere between 0.5 and 1% of your total audience. They serve it to a very, very, very small group of your existing audience, which kind of sucks, right? You've got millions of followers and they don't even serve it to all those people. Those people, it's trying to guess who it'd be relevant to. If you did a story about, I don't know, spicy food and say, okay, I think these people are interested in spicy food. I've looked at the subtitles, I've looked at what's in the video, I've looked at what's in the shared text. I think this is about spicy food for 7 seconds. If these people, and only if these people resonate with the video, in terms of watch time, click through, engagement, shares, comments, likes, I'm going to serve it to a bigger base. And this base of people are now not going to be your followers. Some of them will, most of them will, about 80% won't be your followers. And these people have a lot in common with this base. These guys like spicy halal food. These guys also like spicy halal food. If it sees traction there, it's going to open up to a much bigger window. So it's testing against small audiences, it's looking at analytics specifically, and then it's deciding if it's going to expose your content to more and more people. Makes sense. We decide whether something's going viral, and you can do this math yourself, if 3%, 3 out of every 100 people are sharing it. Just divide the number of shares by the number of views times by 100, you'll get a share rate. If you get 3.003% of these people are sharing it, that thing's going to travel really, really far. Now, in order to do that, there's really just 3 things we care about. There's only 3 things we really deeply consider. One, we want to reduce the amount of people swiping out, leaving the story instantly. That is hooks. I wish I had a fishing rod, but I'm trying to get one this morning. Hooks. That's the name of the game in terms of reducing swipe out. The second thing that we're thinking about, really, really, really important, is retention. Social media platforms at the end of the day want their audiences to be on those platforms for as long as possible, maximize retention. So we're about increasing the watch time, the amount of time that people stay on that story. And the third thing is pushing audiences to take physical actions. Share, comment, save, there's a plethora of different things they can do. These are the only 3 data points that my team spent the most time on. Are we reducing the swipe out on the first 3 to 6 seconds? Are we increasing the overall watch time as a percentage of total duration of the video? And are we increasing the amount of engagement through emotion, on likes, comments, shares, etc.? Am I boring you? Not you guys, him. He's like, should be here. Okay, so the story idea. At the end of the day, it don't matter how much, no, good thinking. It don't matter how much editing you do, how fancy and slick your transitions are, what tracks you put on it, what special headline you use. If it's not a good story idea, the story's not going anywhere. Literally, you should spend 80% of your time on the idea on top, 20% of your time on production, etc. Not enough people do this. Everybody produces a piece of content, we get to the finish line and we're like, oh, what are we going to headline this? What's the thumbnail going to be? Do you know Mr. Beast and team develop 20, 30 thumbnails before they even decide whether they're going to publish a piece of content? Before they even create the content. So merchandising first. It starts with a great story idea. A great story idea is generally, if you imagine a Venn diagram, it's at the intersection of something that's incredibly familiar and something that's incredibly unfamiliar. You put these two things together, you have the beginnings of a story idea. I'm just looking at Yusuf at the front here. So Yusuf got me in a mosque giving a speech. Kind of interesting. Underwater scuba diving, trying to find Allah 150 meters underwater in the Great Barrier Reef. Unfamiliar, right? More interesting vertical. So take something very familiar, take something very unfamiliar, and at the intersection you generally have the start of an interesting story idea. For me, and I spoke about this last year, this specific slide, these are the three indicators of a viral video. You can score any story against these three things. Firstly, is it visual, is it trending, and is it debatable? I'm going to go through each of these very quickly. Is it visual? I don't mean does it have visuals. This has visuals, you're capturing me. But it's not visual. It's not colorful. It's not oddly satisfying. It's not weird. It's not jarring my attention on a feed. I'm scrolling Kim Kardashian, funny cat video. It's not visual. There's nothing visual about this stage, right? Visual. It's something visual. If there's a story, imagine reading this story in Somalia about a group of blind cyclists. So they're blind and they're cycling around, and they're going to the Olympics. And they're blind and they're cycling around, and they're blind and they're cycling around. Is that a visual story? What do you guys think? Blind cyclists in Somalia. Yeah? I would argue it's not. Because a blind cyclist and a regular cyclist, they look much the same on the social media feed. It's just a person in a spandex pant on a bike, right? Like, there's nothing objectively unique about that visual. Unless they crash into something, that becomes visual. Right? So really ask yourself the first question, is this story visual? How do I make it more visual? Is there a prop that I can hold? Is there something that we can do? Can we be in an interesting location? Can I be moving in a particular way? How do I make this story visual? It's a visual medium. Don't think enough about visuals. But, obviously, you get lots of videos that don't have visual, but they might have the other two indicators. You see yapping videos all the time on the internet, talking heads, somebody's got a big idea. They might be tapping into the other two. The second one is trending. Invariably, if you are talking about something that the world is speaking about right now, your propensity to go viral is infinitely higher. If the world is talking about the Straits of Hormuz and Iran, and you are on that subject matter, don't you hate it when your entire social media feed suddenly become experts in Iran and geopolitics? But anyway, if you're on a trending subject matter, you have a much higher propensity to go visual. And the third and final thing is debatability. Stories are so boring if everybody feels the same way about the story. We would never ever do a story on plastic bags being recycled. Because we know plastic bags are bad for the environment. There's nothing debatable about it. You have to find stories that are polarizing, that some people agree with, some people disagree with. And if you can hit those three things, if it's visual, if it's predicated to existing trend, if it's debatable, you have a much higher probability to go viral. Okay, now let's talk about hooks. Really important. At the end of the day, you can lose somebody very quickly. 6.8 seconds is about the time it takes for an Olympic sprinter to do 50 meters. 6.8 seconds is about the time it takes a VW GTI to do 100 meters. 6.8 seconds is also how long you have on social media. That's approximately how long experts have given that somebody is going to give you their attention. So sometimes they don't put off at the first half second, sometimes the first second, sometimes the first frame. But if you have got them for 6.8 seconds, there's a pretty high probability that they'll stick around for at least the first 10. We're so frivolous. We're all about, it's thumb stopping stuff. The thumb is so ready to move on, you've got to stop that thumb stopping in 6.8 seconds. Same idea as before, familiar, even two familiar worlds together, create an unfamiliar relationship. Here's something interesting with hooks. Do these three things. Say what you want to say firstly. Don't delay the context. Sometimes we take too long to get to the point. Say exactly what you're trying to say in the first couple of seconds. Show what you're trying to say. If you can have a prop, if you can visualize it, if you can split screen it, if you can visualize what you're trying to say. And third, spell it out. I'm sure you guys see, if this was a video right now, with the text on top of me saying viral video formula. Right? So there's 3 different ways somebody could engage that. 1, what I said. 2, what you read. And 3rd, what you see. Those 3 things together. You guys envy my power organization? What's going on? Okay. And basically, you're going to provide people with enough context that they lean forward. They want to learn more. Wait, what did he say? Can I find out more? And then you're going to snap them back in the opposite direction. Right? Take them down a path, and then snap them back in a totally different path. I'm going to keep moving. Okay. The delta hook. If you can create a big enough gap between the audience and where they want to be, their perceived value of the story, the wider that you can build that gap, the bigger the hook is going to be. So for example, you could imagine you're like a consultant for social media people. You could be like, hey, I'm going to tell you how Tony went from 20,000 to 100,000 followers in a month. Decent hook, right? So you have Tony went from 20. So you are here. I'm going to tell you how Tony went from 20 to 100,000 in a month. But you could also go, most people have 1,000 Instagram followers and they will never get bigger than that. But I'm going to tell you how Tony went from 20 to 100,000 in a month. You see what we did there? We increased the gap between where the audience is at and where we're taking them. Does that make sense? Running across the stage, we're running out of time. Retention, suspense. After we've done the hook, after we've grabbed your attention, after we have you watching the story for that 6.8 seconds, the next name of the game is about creating enough suspense and watch time to keep you waiting till the end. All of you know that when you watch a movie, a Bollywood or Hollywood movie, and you know where the conclusion is going, where the end is going, oh, you know that the couple are going to fall in love and be happily ever after, that movie's over in your head. It's finished, class. There's nothing else to watch, you know where it's going. It's the same in a video. If you, for even a second, give the audience an indication of where the end of that narrative is going, how it's going to close out, there's no reason to keep watching. You need to keep suspenseful storytelling. Suspense is the name of the game. When somebody pitches us a story idea, I'm continually asking them, what's the wait for it moment? What's the wait for it? What do I have to wait for? What do I have to edge my seat to find out? What is the suspense? The writers of South Park, you guys watch South Park, the old comedy, had a really interesting take on this. They said use 2 particular words. Use the word but and use the word therefore. To start with a goal, Tony is going to try and lose 200 kilos in the next 6 months. But his mother makes the best Nihari. Therefore, he's going to be lifting like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he doesn't have access to a gym. Therefore, he's going to be swimming across the river. Do you understand? Every 10 to 20 seconds in your edit, in your story, I want to hear the word but or therefore. You don't want and then this happened, and then this happened, and then I got a flight to Istanbul, and then I checked into my hotel, and then I had some butter chicken. No, but I couldn't find my bags. Therefore, we had to go on a journey to find them. But they didn't have any long pants, so I was supposed to wear short shorts. Therefore, I couldn't be so, right? Take me on a journey. But therefore. Okay, the other way that you can create suspense in your narrative is on 3 layers. On the individual microseconds of the story, on the actual episode, and on the entirety of the series. So for example, when I did that series, Hitchhiking from South Africa to Syria, the macro suspense was, is he going to make it to Syria? The whole series had an arc of, are they going to reach their conclusion? The episode has its own series conclusion. Is he going to find a place to stay tonight? And the individual microsecond is, where's he going to eat? What's he going to do next? Is he going to be okay? Which vehicle is he getting into? So you can build suspense across the series arc, you can build it across the episode arc, and you can build it every kind of 10 to 20 seconds. So, viral. 1, how do we keep that viewer? How do we get their attention? How do we interrupt them on the feed? How How do we retain them across the entirety of their episode? How do we affect them? How do we give them an emotional reason to watch, to share? And finally, leverage. Once you have a bit of data to suggest the story is doing well, how do you do more stories in that direction? But as I said, be incredibly careful, because everything that I've just described, every single piece of information, if you take it to its most ultimate form, what is the most visual stories? Nudity. What is the most debatable topics? Promiscuous topics. What is the most trending topics? Often the haram ones. Right? So the same formula, in its most extreme form, basically lands on OnlyFans, on the Daily Mail, on these kinds of platforms. If you look at all the things that I've just showed you, about hooks, about retention, all of those things, the most extreme version of it, are really, really dark sides of the internet. That's why we have to work really much harder than they do. Because we have this guiding divine principle, right? We have to be smarter than them to be able to achieve safe virality, but again, our Omar is bigger than theirs. For me, October 7th was that major reset. We had been to Palestine multiple times. Before October 7th, we'd been to all kinds of places across the region. But October 7th was a really big reminder to us, like, what are we doing here? We built this audience, we built this platform, we've got 9 million non-Muslim subscribers. What are we doing here? And how do we use it for the most important things, like bringing attention to genocide? And I think for many of us, October 7th was a major reset. And for us, we deployed all of our energy, our teams, and our attention to Palestine. And during that process, we basically took 50 young storytellers in Gaza, and all the skills that I just showed you, we trained them how to tell stories with their mobile phones. These are people that, for the most part, had absolutely no following. And alhamdulillah, over like a 1.5 year period, we published 700 videos from Gaza. We generated about 1 billion views. We raised about $200,000 for Palestine. I'll play this video. Did you guys play that outside? Just hit play. There should be audio.
You guys almost cooked. You guys almost cooked.
Who you get, you guys?
No worries, there isn't. These are just some of the voices that we've worked with in Gaza, that we continue to work with. As I said, it's not about building our network. It's about growing a decentralized network of value-aligned storytellers, so that they're publishing on their own social media platforms. Some of them have grown from like 1,000 followers to 150,000 during the time they've been working with us. Amazing, amazing young people from across Gaza and the West Bank that are telling their stories on a regular basis. Stories about innovation, stories about culture. Just really, really beautiful stories. We can't wait for traditional media to accurately represent what's happening.
Bring joy and bring smiles.
We will continue to strive for resistance and terrain.
So, if you'd like to support this work, 100% of funds go to paying salaries, basically, of journalists in Gaza. And this t-shirt, Noah, let me show you a t-shirt. You got baby sizes like Noah, and you got adult sizes like me. Please come and find me outside, come and grab a t-shirt. It doesn't matter what you donate, come and grab a t-shirt. You can donate $5, you can donate $100. All of it is going to support storytellers in Gaza, tell their stories. We really appreciate it if you guys can support that effort. And let's build the decolonial media brand together. I'm looking for 3 things. 1, raise your hand if you're American. Oh, amazing. We are running an accelerator for Muslim American creators. The applications are closing this Monday. Email me. It is free. We're going to have 5 extra following between now and December if you're an American Muslim creator. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, if you're looking for a job, we are hiring. Again, email me or WhatsApp me. I'm not scared to check on WhatsApp. Don't phone me at weird hours. Sometimes I'm traveling. But what's happening? If you guys are looking for a job, we'd love to work with you. I'm ashamed to say I've got 20 staff, 0 Muslims on the team. It's awful. I want to align myself by people from the Ummah. Join the company. And thirdly and finally, Jazakallah, thank you so much. I'm going to workshop this evening. Thanks for having me.